there's so many complex parts that come together in a similar way as an opera. What they need from their body, the communications that they need to have with other people to fit into their lives. I really love that it's not a straightforward cookie cutter solution. Hello, my name is Dr. Nicole Blumenstein, and I am a second-year resident in otolaryngology head and neck surgery at the University of Illinois. Today, I'm going to talk about two of my favorite things, music and otolaryngology, or ear, nose, and throat. So first, I want to talk about why I love music so much, and I think that will naturally lend itself to how otolaryngology relates to music. So as a performer, I am a singer. I studied opera in college at Arizona State University, and as part of being a singer and a performer, your job is to create these connections of ideas with music that really spans time. And so we'll take a piece of music written 100 years ago and we'll try to understand the influence of that music at that time, and then how that music is actually relevant today. And to do that, you need to understand the motivations behind the music. You study and you practice to develop your own ideas about the music. And then, most importantly, you create relationships with the other people on stage with you, whether it's your pianist or even your lighting tech. And ultimately, what you're hoping to do is create a connection with the audience so that they can form their own opinions about this musical idea that has traveled through time and means something different to each person in each time period. In otolaryngology, creating those connections amongst the physician and the patient, and even amongst the surgical team as we're taking care of these patients, is the most important thing. So much of what we do in otolaryngology is driven by the patient's needs, whether they need their voice to be able to speak on the radio or teach their class full of 30 children. Everything that we are going to do for this patient is really going to be dependent on what they need from their body, the communications that they need to have with other people to fit into their lives. I really love that it's not a straightforward cookie cutter solution to treat some of these diseases, but instead we reflect with the patient and determine how their injury is affecting their quality of life, and then what we can do to increase those types of communication. Now, I think because everyone's relationship with music changes over time, so will my opinions about how music relates to otolaryngology. But right now, as a second-year resident, I think one of the other most important relationships between music and ear, nose, and throat is actually a relationship that's more about being a doctor in general, and that is the importance of teamwork. When I was studying opera, I remember having my first role as a soprano chorus member in The Elixir of Love, and I was ecstatic. And now I was one of maybe 20 other chorus members, and I had to learn choreography. You know, there was a lot of personal responsibility coming on stage. Because I was a chorus member, I had to develop my own character while I was on stage. Even though I didn't have any lines, I had blocking, I had my storyline of interacting with the other chorus members, and I might not have been singing the main aria, but I was a critical component to the whole gestalt of the show. And I think that that same type of responsibility is so important in medicine. Right now, as a junior resident, I am responsible for all sorts of small tasks that maybe I'm not, operating the entire time in the operating room to help these patients, but I am a critical component in getting that patient to the operating room, whether it's calling them the day before to remind them that they have surgery and what the plan is, or taking some extra time to make sure they have all of their social work paper filled out so they have everything they need for the very important job of healing after surgery. And there's so many small moving parts that come together to be able to care for these patients, whether it's my role as the junior resident, the scrub techs in the OR, the nurses that help us, our schedulers. There's so many complex parts that come together in a similar way as an opera. And I find it really exciting when we can take all these moving pieces and create something that really is truly helpful and beautiful, like an opera. I remember in my first opera experience feeling very overwhelmed and just unsure of how we could go from, stumbling through these Italian songs to really unifying in one message that can be delivered to the audience. And I think about the director that I had at the time, who would take time and work with every single individual cast member, from the chorus members to the leading roles, from the people doing set design and creating our beautiful costumes. He knew every single person's name. He understood how their role fit into a whole, and every time he would interact with any cast member, it was always with so much kindness and compassion and respect and pride for the work that they were doing. And I think that that type of leadership that I have experienced in music has really influenced me in the type of leader that I want to be eventually, when I am the one who gets to lead the OR team and make the surgical plan and really combine everyone's talents to be able to care for the patient.